But can you hear me?
Checking
Okay,
1,
so-
2.
Mm,
Hello, Hell Mage. That's
Tricycle,
maybe you have to change your microphone
bicycle.
in OBS.
It's one mage of a name you have there.
Okay, let's
Got
try
him.
it. Okay, all right, I think I fixed it. Okay, hello everyone. Oh my gosh. You would think that I'm just awful at this, and that is the truth. So hello everyone, welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. You are watching Provokers, Session 9, Ghost in the Forest. This is our first session in like 4 months. So it's pretty awesome that we were able to get everyone together and managed to get into session here before AtCon, before my daughter is born, before all of that craziness happens. So I'm really glad to be playing with these guys tonight. As always, please let me know in the chat if audio levels need to adjust or anything. There's so much just finicky stuff with this setup, and I want to make sure that I can be heard and that the guys can be heard. So please just let me know if anything needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick recap. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves as well, and then we're going to just roll right into the session. So last time on the Provokers Bleakwrath, the Provokers acquired a leviship, a airborne vessel designed by Sige Espano, the flight engineer of Falhast. This was a ship that was commissioned by Durgan Blood Mountain himself to be used to help save Aeronoth for this sort of coming doom that he sensed was coming. The Provokers were granted this ship and decided to give it the name the Sable, after the cat companion of Sige himself. They were also visited by Keenra, the dragonborn merchant, and on-again, off-again friend, enemy, who had the hand of Casimir Strongsong, and he had done some research and had sort of found that this was Casimir's hand that was warped by the energies of the Bleak and given draconic properties, leading him to theorize that maybe things like kobolds and dragonborn were created much the same way using the energy of the Bleak by the dragons. They boarded the Sable and brought Keenra along with them, who promised to outfit the Sable with plenty of supplies, munitions, food, water, all that kind of stuff. And in addition, I believe it was either 2 or 3 favors to be cashed in later on by the Provokers. Keenra basically wanted to tag along and basically get off whenever he wanted to in exchange for these things. The Provokers set off on their journey and decided to go to the Plateau, which is this area in Sonnegeist, this high, sort of sheer-walled, flat-topped plateau that mysteriously had a dense, lush jungle growing atop it, inexplicably. Sonnegeist is this blasted, burned desert, and so it didn't sort of track that there'd be this sort of verdant, beautiful jungle atop it. But they also were somewhat led to believe that maybe this plateau was a place that Kristoff's brother ventured to, because the drow Shade had found his brother's ring on the slopes of this plateau. And so they decided that they wanted to go check out this plateau, and Kristoff, of course, had a vested interest in this. So they headed to the plateau, and they were attacked by kobolds on the way, who were on some sort of flying creature. They couldn't really see what it was through the storm, but these kobolds boarded the Sable. The Provokers did combat and managed to best these kobolds, but not before the Sable took some damage, and Holly was injured. The Provokers arrived at the plateau, and Holly elected to stay behind along with Keenra to rest up and make repairs to the Sable and just watch the ship, both from outside forces and also Keenra. They didn't really feel comfortable leaving Keenra on the ship alone, leaving Kristoff, Edric, and Sander to venture into the plateau on their own. Once they got to the plateau, Kristoff could have sworn that he saw the shape of his brother outlined in leaves on the wind, beckoning him deeper into the jungle, and that is where we ended our session last time. So we're going to be continuing that story tonight. Thank you again for joining us all. I'm going to throw it to these guys here to do quick introductions, and then we're going to start the session. So from here, we're going to start with Barker. Hey, Barker. Hi down there. Hey, buddy. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you're playing.
Thanks, bro. Hi, everybody. My name is Barker, and I am playing Holly Rast, a person of many traits, chiefly an authority figure back in Falhast, but has recently departed on this new mission. By authority figure, I mean someone who serves in the guard there, and who is kind of discovering that she is capable of some new and greater things, which is something I always like to role play. So I'm really excited for this session. And this way.
Yeah.
And tell me about you, Mike. Who are you playing today?
Oh no, he's muted. He ruined the joke.
I can't hear you. Here, let me reach over and help you unmute. Come on, Mike, help me out, bro. Just
we're missing
And that is the secret of Edric Meadows, the character I'm playing.
Wow, man, I can't believe that, man. That's insane. I really hope that everyone heard that.
I know. It's like tantamount to the entire understanding of this lovable little guy known as Edric Meadows. Anyway, on to you, Nate. How's it going? Wait, am I facing the right? Yeah, I am facing the right way. Okay.
Good job, Mike.
Thanks. So, Edric Meadows is a everyone go subscribe to Mike the Piper on YouTube and enjoy it. We hope you enjoy Edric Meadows. He's pretty awesome. All right. My name is Nate. I have the YouTube channel WASD20, and I'm playing Sander Dinara, who is a halfling monk from the desert of Sonnegeist, where we currently are, a member of the Order of the Unscorched. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be back, and I can't wait to venture into this jungle.
And who's next?
Timothy!
Half of an elf or half of a human. Which one is going to be at the forefront? And can they exist at the same time? And when they do, what kind of a person does that make? And that is what I'm trying to role play with Christoph. And I'm playing a druid who started off not wanting to be a druid and is slowly understanding that maybe it's the key to figuring out who murdered my brother. And also, I might be a little better at it than I want to admit. And I'm really excited to play in this game. And if you're looking for an encounter to run, you can go to absolutetabletop.com and pick up our free RPG Day PDF called Dueling Wizards, our Battle for Rotspire. And that's totally free, and you don't even have to log in. So you can do that.
It's 4 pages of awesome encounter stuff, tons of roll tables, and all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely go check it out. I think there's a link to Absolute Tabletop down in the description, somewhere down there. Also down there is a link to the recap doc, which I update after every session, sometimes right away, sometimes months later. But it's a good way to keep up with all of the things that are happening in the campaign, NPCs, quest lines, things like that. So definitely check that out. All right. Let's go ahead and get started with Provokers, Bleakwrath, Session 9, The Ghost in the Forest. Christoph, you are lying in your bed back in the Ravenstorm Highlands. The buildings here are made from trees. And that seems stupid to say. Most buildings are made from trees. But what I mean by that is that the trees themselves have been shaped over many decades and centuries to become enclosures, furniture, tables, chairs. The druids of the Ravenstorm Highlands are patient. They are long-lived, and they have an affinity for nature. Your bed itself is gnarled roots coaxed into the shape of a bed as they grew over years and years. You're laying in this bed under silk sheets when you're shook awake, and a voice says, Chris, buddy, wake up. Oh, you're muted, Tim.
That's what I said. I said, I'll just give me a second. I'm going to unmute. All right, let's take that over. I'm asleep. What? What time is it?
I'm not sure. It's maybe just after midnight. Come on, wake up. And standing over you is your older brother, Nero. You're a teenager at this point, Christoph. He's barely a man. Young adult, really. There's a smattering of a beard on his face. He sort of pulls you up out of bed and half drags you out of your room. He drags you down the hall past the double doors leading to your parents' bedroom. You see candlelight flickering from under the door. Your father is still up, working, toiling away, writing, studying. Nero pulls you outside and you feel cold, dew-laden grass between your toes, moss beneath your feet. He pulls you into a clearing of trees where above you you can see the stars. He brings you to this clearing and he points upward. Look. Do you see? And if you look up into the sky, you see the blood-red moon, the blue moon, and a third moon that almost seems like a hole in the sky, a black moon that does not reflect light.
And at first upset, feeling that the cold from my feet beginning to hurt on the wet grass, sort of still not awake and having to pee. I look up and I don't expect to see anything that I wouldn't normally see, and so I do, and I just, wow. What? And immediately I'm awake. This is the void moon. This is special. This means something amazing is going to happen. And I look to Nero and I go, "Did you make a wish?"
Make a wish? You've been spending too much time with our cousins. No, this only happens probably once a decade. All three up in the sky. I think the last time this happened, you were too young to remember.
Yeah. Come on, find a slug. We got to make a wish. And I drop to my knees and I start rifling around in the grass for a slug. Come on. Come on, we got to make a wish. You're not going to cheapen this for me.
He kind of seems about to protest and then nods. All right, yeah. And he also gets on his hands and knees, and you begin rifling through the grass, and pretty soon your hand falls upon a big, fat, slimy slug, cold, with night air. You pull it up out of the grass. Ooh, that's a big one. This is going to be a good wish.
Yeah, baby. All right, kiss it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's not part of it. Go ahead. It's all yours. You found the slug. So once in a decade opportunity here. So don't mess it up, Chris.
Christoph places the slug on his left hand. The three moons cast a strange color of light. And perhaps the darkest one takes light away. And he holds the slug with an even hand up so that it appears as though it's giant, eclipsing each one of the moons. First, he starts with the blood red moon on the right, and he mutters something. Then the blue moon in the center. Then he looks at Nero for a second. And then he looks up and he holds his hand. And the void moon is so black that the silhouette of the slug is lighter. And then he finishes his stupid, hopeful, real wish. And then he takes the slug and he gently sets it on the grass.
While you're doing this, Nero has pulled out one of his journals that he's so fond of doodling in. And he's doing a quick sketch of you standing there holding the slug up to the moons. All right, then, what'd you wish for?
I can't tell you. You know, that would ruin it, man.
So many rules applied to something so made up.
Yeah. But that's the fun, right? The rules, you know?
Yeah, I guess. Hey, I'm gonna be going somewhere soon. It's gonna be a long trip.
All right. So what's long?
It's probably gonna be a few years.
What are you talking about? Where are you going for a few years? What? That's ridiculous. No. What?
It's something important for Dad.
Oh. You know, I should have guessed.
I know. Listen. I know because you haven't shown an aptitude for the magic yet, that you think it's not worth it. But it runs thick in our veins. And we're connected to this place. I'm going to be in charge of the family someday, Chris, and I need to do this. It's important. And I'm going to miss you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I mean, maybe if you are in charge of the family someday, then you won't send other people on fool's errands like this.
Don't blame Dad, because he gave me a choice. Okay, this is my decision.
Sure. I mean, within the constraints of, if you don't do it, you're disowning everything that they press on us every single day. Like, or just don't go. What about that? What would happen if you just didn't go and we tell him no together?
Then it would fall to you.
And I wouldn't go together.
Chris, this isn't like skipping meditation circle or going out into the woods to hunt for meat because we're not allowed to eat meat. It's not just breaking the rules. This is something beyond us, beyond you and me, beyond Mom and Dad. And I know it's difficult for you to understand, but you're young, and I hope that someday maybe you will understand, and maybe by the time I get back, maybe you'll have forgiven me for leaving.
I won't forgive you. No, that's not. I'm not mad at you to forgive.
It's okay to be mad at me. It's all right. I understand.
And in that moment, Kristoff, he won't admit it, but he understands. And the weight of Nero's words are coming from a different place. And this place, this look in Nero's eyes, this responsibility. I think Kristoff both equally understands it, and it hurts him because he sees that it is not his dad and that Nero is choosing to go, but he understands, and he says, I know that you think you need to go, and that's enough. So, yeah, maybe I'll forgive you when you come back.
Okay. I can live with that. Listen, I'm leaving in a few days. We've got time. So let's just spend the next few days together, all right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. And I will take all of your stuff.
I wouldn't have it any other way. And he sort of puts his arm around you and grips your shoulder, and you two look up at these three moons together, and we cut. And Kristoff, you're much older, and you're standing in the middle of these woods, and your eyes are closed, and you feel this breeze brush up against your shoulder, almost like an arm around you, and you feel it kind of pushing you deeper into the woods. You've been walking now in the jungle for probably about an hour. Sweat pouring down your face. It's hot. It's humid here. The jungle is dense. You're having to hack through with weapons. And you're not sure how, but you know where you're going. You feel pulled in the direction. And you're not sure how, but you feel like Nero is here.
And it's aimless. Well, not aimless. It's automatic. The walking. It's not taking steps. It's just moving forward. It's just sort of trudging. And there's not a hurried pace. It's just a knowing pace. And like you're saying, I just sort of know to make a slight right or to follow a tree. And it seems almost as though maybe I feel like I've been here before.
Yeah, there is almost a strange sort of familiarity with it. Even though the forest itself is so unlike the woods that you're used to, these sort of temperate woods, these are so much more tropical, jungly. And as you're moving through these woods with something of a purpose, Edric and Sander are behind you. And the two of you, Edric and Sander, you've definitely noticed something is off about Kristoff. He's not talking. He's just sort of walking, and he seems to be walking with this very direct purpose.
Have you been here before, Mr. Kristoff?
It takes a moment for anything to register. But you don't have to repeat yourself. It's almost like I have to come back into my own mind, back into my own body, and sort of address what's happening right next to me, rather than the feeling of being about 3 seconds in the future. Say what? What did you say?
I said, have you been here before? Because you seem to be knowing where you're going, or at least you're walking in one direction, and we haven't fallen off this plateau yet. So, have you been here before?
It feels like I it feels like I have, but I haven't. I don't know. You know, when you'd march as a soldier, did you ever hit a hill or a town that just felt like you knew it?
Well, I I haven't been too far outside of Aldemir, but sometimes I'd go to the outlying farms beyond the walls, and well, I guess, I mean, we could always smell the salt air at our backs, so we always knew that we were near Aldemir, or at least we knew where Aldemir was. Maybe you smell something, or maybe. Oh, wait. Well, because you're a magicker, do you think maybe there's some sort of a magicking going on?
And it hadn't even dawned on Kristoff that might be the case, as stupid as that sounds. And when Edric says it, it's like the words of a prophet. I don't know how that works. But maybe it's like the salt air at my back, just this magnetic pull in front. I just know which way.
Well, that's good enough for us. And well, if you need anything, or we're right behind you.
Yeah, and Sander. I mean, Sandy. What's your gut telling you?
Sander is actually just a little bit behind you guys. Hasn't really been paying much attention because there's this big dragonfly, and he's like never seen a dragonfly before, and he's just like he's got his quarterstaff just kind of like trying to whack this dragonfly out of the sky, and he oh my these never seen bugs like this before. You were saying something?
I just I was just asking if what your gut was telling you. How are you feeling about all this?
It's we've seen some strange things over the last few days, but this well, it's not the strangest, we'll say, but it's a strange place. I think we should continue.
And that makes Kristoff smile, because he's right. We're not on the back of a Titanic dragon. We're not talking to the shade of a person trapped in the bleak, reliving the same day over and over again. And so that puts Kristoff at ease, and Sander's smile and his cheery nature, and even the, looking at the dragonfly sort of pulls Kristoff back and remembering who he's here with and why. And I continue on.
We cut back to the Sable anchored on the edge of this plateau. Holly, you're standing on the upper deck making the last of the repairs to the sort of stabilizer fin off the starboard side that was shredded by the claws of the kobold as it sort of fell off. And Keenra is up on the deck, and he's sort of standing there with this parchment, and he's sort of like taking stock of everything that's loaded onto the ship, taking this very meticulous inventory. And you hear him just sort of muttering to himself in this very strange language that seems like 50% words, 50% like guttural sort of throat sounds. You may have heard it before. It's Draconic. And he's sort of muttering this to himself as he's writing down how many barrels of salmon they got, and how many barrels of, dried venison, and how many casks of water and ale and things like that. And he would sort of stretch his back and look over at you and say, "You just about done with those repairs, Rast?"
Almost as soon as he asks that question, Holly kind of is turning around and kind of collapses down with her back against this upper deck hull of the ship, and she breathes out a heavy sigh, looks to him and nods, and then takes the rest of the material that she was using to fix that fin, and she begins replacing her bandage from the combat before. She nods towards his notes and his meticulously organized sense of stock and logistics, and says, somewhat under her breath, but probably loud enough for someone like Kinra to hear, "He would make a good bureaucrat."
He sort of, I've often thought about that, but no, not for me. Too many rules. He kind of leans back against one of the crates, and he sort of like mops his brow. Even though he doesn't sweat, he sort of like mimics mopping sweat from his brow, and you see his tongue sort of flicking out of his mouth as he's trying to cool off. And he says, it's kind of funny. Crates like these full of food and weapons. These were probably smuggled right under your nose, Rast. And now they sit on the deck of your very own flying ship. Strange how life works.
It is strange, Kinra. She looks back over to him. How many of the guard, how many Black Bloods have you talked to this way? How many have you been so forward with, Kinra?
In my time smuggling goods into the Dusk District, I got to know several of them very well. The only thing you Black Bloods liked better than shooting crossbow bolts into husks was earning a little coin on the side.
She looks to him with like a glare, like a knowing glare. And she says, after a moment, someday, Kinra, someday I'm going to have you painted into a corner. Someday I'm going to make it stick. And then at the last second, I'm going to offer you one favor for me to throw it all away.
I have lived a very long time, and there have been many who thought as you do, Rast. None of them have succeeded.
She speaks too quickly. The fire inside, burning with tenacity and almost fury, but she calms herself. And she turns back and says, someday. She finishes up her bandage. She stands up and she walks to the other side of the ship, the port side, to look out in the forest, in the woods. How high are we? Are we at like the canopy? I imagine I can no longer obviously see any of my companions, any of the other provokers walking away, but she kind of takes a look at the landscape and just kind of tries to guess exactly where they're going to end up.
Yeah, you're sort of over the canopy of the trees, so the plateau is hundreds of feet high, and then the trees themselves are fairly high as well. So, and you're sort of anchored to one of these trees with a couple of lines, just sort of like floating there. The rocks sort of like listlessly sort of swaying back and forth. Your weight as you move across the ship, sort of dipping the ship in different areas. But you can see for several miles in every direction, and you just see a sea of trees. Maybe a clearing here or there, but really just dense jungle. Probably the densest wood that you've ever seen in terms of how many trees there are and how tightly packed they are. Occasionally you will see a flight of birds sort of take off from the trees, and you like to imagine, hey, maybe that's where they're walking right now, and they're disturbing those birds as they hack through the vines and the bushes. And you definitely see like sort of like ruins sort of peeking up as well, towers and things like that crumbling, overtaken by vines and nature sort of peeking up over the trees.
She looks out, wondering, honestly out loud, she'll even say to Keenra, how do you even navigate through something like that?
Intuition, a map. Maps are always good. But this jungle... Well, let's just say it's not usual in Aeronath to see a new landscape. This is new.
She looks to him, and at first it's kind of like a no shit kind of look. And then she ponders and looks out into the distance. She sees the deserts of Sonnegeist, and this place is kind of obviously a phenomenon here in this place. And she looks to Keenra and she'll say, I have never heard of you talk about something new that you've seen. So that's makes me a little anxious.
You might think I'm lying when I tell you that this jungle gives me hope. Dragons are they are spirits of destruction. Demigods designed specifically to unmake. Sonnegeist is a testament to that. Burned by fire so hot it turned it to glass. Made it so nothing green could grow ever again. And yet here this jungle is growing right out of the soil, scorched by dragon fire.
He kind of goes to the edge of the boat and looks down.
I was here, you know. Back then.
Back when?
During the Great Scorching.
No way. No way. How old are you?
What year is it? That's how old I am.
She gives him a kind of a long look. Okay. Like you said earlier, I always think you're lying.
I don't lie, Rast. I don't have to.
He kind of turns around and looks at you.
Did you ever make any coin on the side? You know, let something slip past the walls.
Nobody's perfect, Keenra. Things always slip past the walls. But no, I never took a coin from anyone, nor a favor.
Interesting. Well then.
He kind of wanders over to the weapons crates.
I happen to know something about you, Rast. But I'm keeping it close to the chest for now. In case you get me into that corner.
In fact, he turns. I would say, and he trails off. He looks to his right, and you sense something too, Holly. Though it moves too quickly for you to react. There's a shimmer on the air. It might even be mistaken for a heat shimmer coming off of the metal here on the sable. But you realize it's the silhouette of a creature too late. as a blade of blue-gray metal protrudes from Kinra's chest as he is stabbed. His words are cut off as the blade cuts through his chest, and then he slides off of it. The creature behind him appears from some sort of concealment magic. She is tall, with a bald head, and a mouth that has been fused shut. She manipulates the liquid metal to form a blade and points it at you, Holly. Please roll for initiative. Ooh, a dirty 20. Let's see. What does she get? Oh, man. She just tied with you. What's your dex?
Oh, nuts. My dex is 17.
Okay, you beat her, so you get to go before her.
As soon as the blade is seen through Kinra's chest, instinct kicks in.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze up for a little bit, but you're back.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
She will pick up the crossbow and immediately fire a bolt over Kinra's shoulder.
Okay.
Oh, nuts. Okay. That's 13 to hit.
13 to hit, does not hit. As the bolt flies towards this Haldrathine elf, she sort of brings up a liquid metal shield, and the bolt just hits it and shatters, and she sort of tosses the shards aside. Do you want to do any movement? You're about 30 feet away from her right now. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, she's actually going to roll away if she can. She's going to try to step away to maintain her distance from the elf.
Yeah, absolutely. The sable itself is probably about 90 feet long, so you're able to put another 30 feet of distance between you and her. She moves 30 feet closer to you, and as she's charging across the deck with this liquid blade sort of protruding from her gauntlet, you see her reach out with a hand, and one of the crates full of water is lifted up off the deck, and she hurls it at you with psychic energy. I'm going to need you to give me a dexterity saving throw. DC is 13.
Like a Dark Lord of the Predator Terminator Liquid Metal Sith.
Yeah. Yep.
What was that DC you said?
13.
14 total.
So
That's why I asked first.
Yep. You managed to... Well, you can describe how you dodge this barrel being hurled at you psychically.
It's actually during the roll back. You see, she feels it kind of the gust near her as it flies past, and it crashes into the side of the ship, and a lot of it tips over the edge.
Awesome. And with that, we're actually going to cut back to the other half of the Provokers in the jungle. Hey, you guys split the party. This is what you signed up for. You are staring at a cliff face, a sheer cliff face, with waterfalls just cascading down it. And Kristoff, you don't see another path. This is the path you have to take, which involves you sort of pressing yourself against this cliff and trying to slip behind the waterfalls to get to the other side of this cliff face.
So I look at Sandy, and I'm not concerned. I kind of give him a look. And then I look at Edric. And then I look at his feet, which are probably about as long as my forearm. And then I sort of I look to the two of them. This is the only way. So we're going to have to hug some rock. How you feeling about that, Ed?
Well, and I'm just going to look down to the bottom of this pool, unless it falls off the edge of the plateau, in which case I'm clenching everything.
Why don't you let me go first, and I can see how soft it is down there.
Well, you want to go over the falls first? I mean, or do you mean you want to like try and crawl around there first? Because I wouldn't go over the falls first. I don't think anyone should go over the falls, not even someone with wings.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Sandy, you do the best if you did fall. I'm not saying you're going to fall. But if you did fall, I would bet on you to survive over Edric. I would bet on me to survive before you, but you would be my second bet if there was a scenario in which I had to bet on myself or you.
We could make this very interesting.
Oh, you want to like make a real bet?
You go first.
All right. All right. So, Matt, what does it look like as I take that first sort of preparatory step? I'm not going to take the step out, but that brace yourself, square up my shoulders, sort of. What am I doing?
I imagine that you step out sort of, not even putting your full weight on this ledge, and as you step, maybe a rock breaks loose and sort of clatters down the cliff face, and you sort of look down and you see the waterfalls sort of emptying into this lake hundreds of feet below you, which then empties off to the side of the plateau and seemingly empties into Sonnegeist. What I'd like for you to do, Christoph, is I will let you use whatever skill you want to use if you can describe it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to have a good stern talking with this Cliff.
Now listen here, Cliff.
Now you listen up. Okay. No, I think it's actually very fair. So I think that what I would probably use is I would probably lean on just survival. I think that what I would probably try to do is look at roots. Are there any? What, if any, effect is the water having? And what sorts of rock is this cliff made out of? Things like that, so that I'm going to try to perceive hazards before they happen and then take the surest footing based on all that stuff, grabbing vines, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So survival, that makes a lot of sense. You can absolutely use survival. Okay. And so you're able to step out on this ledge, and you do find some roots, some vines that are kind of protruding out of the rock and kind of crawling down this rock. And you're able to grab onto them, and they seem secure enough where you're at least able to give yourself a little bit of confidence, knowing that you're not going to just topple and fall off of this cliff. You're going to have a little bit of something to grab onto. So you're able to pull yourself, about 15 feet out into this cliff, which is about halfway there.
Okay. And I think that, have you ever overthought something that was super simple? Like the final step of something.
What that's like.
So I just feel like my head would be just swimming with things like, looking down at that lake, wondering how shallow it is. And I think that my foot would sort of like I can't think of how do I step? Like I'm Jack Donaghy right now. Like what do I do with my hands? Like I don't know how to step, even though I'm just stepping. And I would look over at Sander and I'm like, why did you let me do this?
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I would bet on you. That was the thing. I use my mouth a lot. That's what I do. What I mean is, okay. And so I start to, and I take just another step.
Listen, you are much more able to catch one of us if somebody falls, so it makes much more sense. Although I am very nimble and dexterous, if I see a body passing me, I am not much good.
Yeah.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay.
So, Kristoff, you're continuing to move, and you're actually behind one of the waterfalls now, and it's just deafening, this waterfall that is just cascading, and you have maybe, half a foot of clearance between you hugged against this cliff face and the waterfall that is falling. And you're just getting sprayed with water, and as you're you hear Sander's voice sort of fade as you move behind this waterfall. You can't even hear him as the waters are just rushing. You grab onto this vine and pull yourself, and then you feel this intense pressure as the vine wraps itself around your wrist and pulls you against the cliff face. You're going to be taking 11 bludgeoning damage, and you are grappled by whatever this is.
Okay. Okay.
And as you're sort of like pulled against the cliff and you see this vine is kind of pulling you, you look up and you see this plant above you behind the waterfall, and you see these tendrils, these vines snaking out from it, and you see these vines moving towards you as it begins to sort of like pull you up farther on the cliff. I need you guys to roll for initiative, please.
Ooh.
Okay. Luckily, this thing didn't roll very well.
That's okay. It already has me in its clutches like a Fall Out Boy album.
All right. So it's going to be Kristoff with the dirty 20. It's going to be Sander with the 21. And yes, you guys did rest after the kobold fight, so you guys should be back up from where you were. So, Sander, from where you're standing, it's hard to really tell what's going on. You can't hear Kristoff, but you do see him begin to struggle as he's sort of moving behind this waterfall, and you can see that he's like sort of lifting up. He's getting pulled by something.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm in a position to do much from here. So I think I would be concerned enough where I would start to descend as well. Just to investigate further.
Yeah, so go ahead and what skill are you going to use to sort of move along this cliff face?
That's a good question. I guess I would probably also... I guess I'll probably just use acrobatics. I'm trying to just kind of swing and occasionally I'm light enough where I can feel like, I think this can hold me, and I might even take a little leap to another hold that I can see. And and that is 18.
Perfect. Yeah, you can actually move right up to where Kristoff is, and so you leap and jump and pull yourself across this cliff face, and you see some sort of plant, a creature, something with these viney tendrils snaking down towards Kristoff, and you see him sort of struggling as he's being lifted. And if you want, you can take an action.
Yeah, so I'll say, oh no, hold on, I'm coming. And I'm just going to kind of like swing from where I am, and I'm going to strike out with one hand with my quarterstaff, And I'll just urge him again. Hold on tight. And that is going to be a 19 to hit.
That definitely hits.
Okay. And that is 9 bludgeoning damage.
Damn. Very nice. So you strike this thing, and you actually hear like a sound come from this mound of vines and sort of flowering petals up above you, and you see it kind of shrink back, and you see the vines sort of loosen a little bit on Kristoff's arm. Anything else on your turn, Sander?
Nope, that's it.
Kristoff, you see Sander run up and strike this thing with his quarterstaff, and you now are fully aware of the fact that this is some kind of creature. It is screeching, it is reacting to being hurt, and it's trying to pull you towards whatever maw it might have. It is your turn.
Okay. Do I get the impression that it is made of plant matter based on its grappling of me?
You definitely think that this is a plant-based creature, yes.
Okay, killer. The other thing is that, you know, as Sander says, hold on, I just, you know, I respond the only way I would know to, which is as I'm being held to this cliff by grasping tendrils as my face turns red. And I just sort of, my eyes bulge angrier than they were a moment ago. Like, where do you think I'm going to go, buddy? So I'm just looking through. We recently switched up after I got out of the Bleak. So I just am looking at some of my spells here.
Absolutely, yeah. Go for it.
Because I want to do something and I want to see if this will fly and if it will work. Okay, so, all right. I'm going to try this and see if you'll let me do this, which is basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cast a spell that essentially can control plants. Okay. Like using something like my first thought was entangle. Like if I could basically make the creature its own difficult terrain, like tangle it up, like make it confused or tangle its own hands to get out of the grapple is my goal.
You could
something like that.
You could definitely try that. Yeah, I will let you try that.
Okay. So essentially just as written, what would happen is the creature itself would become difficult terrain if you were going to treat it like terrain.
Yeah.
But basically it fills 20 feet. So, retcon this if necessary. But what I would imagine is these extra tendrils, this additional plant matter begins to sort of sprout out of it. And it's this sort of, different color. This may be like reddish. And those are my tendrils, and they're sprouting from this thing's branches, and it sort of grapples the cliff wall, digging roots in and making it difficult for the creature to move. And what my intention would be, even though that's difficult terrain for it, would be to get out of the grapple.
Okay, yeah. So what I'll allow you to do is you can cast that spell, and I'll let you try and get out of the restrained that you're in right now, the grapple, with advantage, since you're sort of distracting it with this spell.
Killer. Oh, okay. First roll. 16. Come on, baby.
That'll do it.
Yep. The second roll was not a 16. It
okay,
was
yeah.
5. So
the 16 will get you out of it. So you can describe to me what that looks like as you sort of cast entangle on the cliff face and then manage to get free of this vine that is slowly entangling you.
Instinct. I just sort of, and my hands begin to sort of glow, and these red vines sprout from the creature, embed into the cliff wall, and I think for just half of a second, in its pain and confusion, it sort of lets go of me, and I just sort of slip out, but yet I'm having to hold on to these roots to stay on the cliffside.
Yeah, and the sort of the vines of this creature begin sort of fighting with the vines that you have conjured as they're sort of like entangling each other and trying to best one another, and you're able to get free. Awesome, good job. Go ahead and give yourself a point of inspiration. That was really clever.
Dude, thank you. And thank you for being an awesome DM who allowed something like that.
You're welcome. Edric, you're up. So Edric, you see this creature, you see its vines snaking out, and you see Sander running up and hitting it with his quarterstaff, and you see that Kristoff is free, but these vines are still coming for him. So they're not out of the woods yet. Literally, they're not out of the woods yet.
All right. How can I get within 10 feet of this plant?
Yeah, you'll need to give me some sort of skill check to get out onto the cliff, much like Kristoff and Sander did.
Or actually, no, I'm thinking this is probably going to take 2 turns. But I'm going to I wonder if I can go into my backpack and pull out a torch.
Mm-hmm.
That's lit. Well, and light it, obviously. And I'm guessing like maybe the next turn I can probably throw it at the plant. All right.
Yeah, you can definitely do that on your next turn. Yeah. And just so you're aware, it is up like on a vertical cliff face. So if you're going to throw the torch, you could potentially hit it, but it's not going to like land next to it. It's going to fall after it hits it.
Wait, sorry. So yeah, I'll basically lob it up and it just kind of like lands.
Yeah, you can definitely try that on your next turn.
I am King Edric. I am Lord of the Milk. I've been looking at the chat. Of course I'm going to screw this up, but it's going to be awesome.
So you get the torch out and you light it, and then on your next turn you can get out on the cliff and try and huck this thing at the plant. Awesome. All right. Back on the Sable, Holly, you tuck and roll as a barrel crashes beside you as this elf is continuously hurling these barrels at you as she gets closer. It is your turn.
She is going to maneuver her way in a like to a mast, like behind a large wooden mast on the ship, and she looks out in the distance. She sees the desert, and then in that moment she hears Keenra's words. Dragons, the great unmakers. She sees the scars that is Sonnegeist. And then she sees her father's face, scarred equally by the same monstrosity. But in that moment, she remembers something. She holds her crossbow in front of her, and she just tries to channel that rage that she felt earlier. And in this moment, she has a little flashback. She remembers something, Matt, if you'll let me. She's standing on the, like, what kind of dock is there? How, in Falhast, how does trade come into the city? Is it like a river? Are there caravans? Like, what sort of duty would she serve as, like searching things and customs?
Yeah, all the goods come in on that road, the Meridian, that runs all the way from Aldemir across the Western Southlands, past the Wayward Wanderer and into Falhast. And that's where, like, the main gate, the Meridian ends at the main gate of Falhast. And so that's where all merchants, adventurers, traveling people, that's where they legally enter Falhast if they're not going through a hole in the wall.
Perfect. She sees the Meridian. She sees the guard post. She sees Burke, younger, standing across from her. She sees the large cart filled with barrels. She sees the strange-looking
Uh-oh. This was getting really good, too.
Stuck in a moment.
I mean, everyone too. Check 1, 2. Check.
There
check.
you are.
Tricycle.
There he is.
I got to do a full check here. Tricycles, bicycles, spectacles, Testing. 1, 2. Testing. 1,
I'm
2.
stealing that. That's a good one for all the
My
times
brother-
when I do mic checks, because that's something that happens a lot in my life.
Dude, yeah, it'll happen for me a couple more times here. But she sees the person who's driving this cart. She sees all the barrels in the back, and she remembers approaching it, and she asks, "What's in the barrels?" Just the official question. In that moment, she's back at the mast, and she feels it, whatever it is. This thing that is no thing. The wind that does not blow. The air that is omnipresent even in spaces without oxygen. She feels it channel in her weapon. She takes her satchel and she throws it to the left side as some sort of distraction, and she's going to move to the right. And while she's moving, she's going to be using evasive footwork. She's going to roll her, spend a superiority die and add it to her AC. So her AC is going to be 19. And while she's moving, she's going to fire this bolt at the Haldrathine elf. And while she's doing it, she's going to say something like, "You picked the wrong ship." This bolt, okay, beautiful. All right, so 24 to hit.
Yeah.
Cool. So this arrow is more than meets the eye. It strikes the elf, who takes 2d6 force damage, 9 force damage. All other creatures within 10 feet take 2d6 force damage. So I imagine she doesn't really even know what this thing can do. But is Keenra even conscious at this point?
It looks like if he's conscious, he's barely conscious. He's laying on the deck of the ship, and you just see blood pooling beneath him.
Great. Well, I imagine he's within 10 feet.
No, she would have moved away from him to try and get to you, so she's about 20 feet away from him at this point.
Oh, okay, perfect.
You're like, how can I kill Keenra and her at the same time?
I'm like, can I push her back? Can I use a maneuvering attack to ask Keenra to come a little closer to her before I start? No. Actually, she is blown backwards, just right on her ass. She's even surprised by the damage that this thing has done, and the flames are that explode outward from this arrow are cosmetic, almost like a chemical reaction, but it's force. It's force that is causing this, and she's wide-eyed and shocked as she sees the Haldrathine elf die, completely just fall unconscious and die.
She stumbles as she's charging towards you. She's sort of, Terminator T-1000 running towards you, and you hit her with this concussive shot that just at this sort of sonic boom that goes off, and she is thrown to her knees and sort of comes to a sliding halt, and she looks up, and in her eyes you see surprise, respect, anger, all of those things, and in your head you hear a voice. "I see you take after your father." And she stands and sort of brushes stuff off of her shoulder, and she charges and leaps at you with this gauntlet blade. Oh man, she's actually gonna miss. Go ahead and describe what it looks like as she barely misses you with a 14.
It's got to be because of the evasive footwork. It's got to be because she, feigns one direction and kind of ducks the other way and just
Oh man.
barely missed. She feels. I don't know if you heard me. Check.
I heard that she barely missed.
Yeah, she barely missed.
Okay, cool.
I kind of dodge out this way, and
Cool.
I feel the blade brush my clothes.
Yeah, she cuts through a cloak as it's trailing as you barely dodge out of the way. So she spins and makes a second attack as as she's able to do 2 times. She misses again. She comes back around, and again, you dodge out of the way. I don't know how you're doing it, but you're going toe-to-toe 1v1 with this Haldrithian elf. All right. Back on the cliff face, Sander, Kristoff has managed to free himself from this vine. You've got about 15 feet of cliff face left to go to get to the other side of this, and there's vines snaking towards the two of you. What would you like to do?
Okay, so when you say get to the other side of this, describe this to me again. There's a cliff.
Yeah, so it's like a sheer cliff, and there's like a thin sort of walkway across it, like this sort of jutting thing with rocks and vines sticking out of it. So you're basically going across this vertical cliff face to get to the other side. There's waterfalls, but there's also this vine thing sort of at the top that's sort of snaking downward. So you're about halfway across this cliff face, and you'll need to go another 15 feet before you get to the other side if you want to get to the other side.
And Kristoff, and so I'm very near Kristoff, and the plant thing is still there, but not holding on to him, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So, man, I suppose I would be in favor of just pushing on. So I will make one more attack on this thing. I just kind of, just to make, for good measure, to make sure that it's maybe try to push it further away or even knock it off of the cliff if that's even possible. I am going to make I guess my 2 attacks with my quarterstaff and my unarmed strike.
Cool. And yeah, Barker, I just saw you put in the chat that you guys do have sending stones, which are great, but I think it's a once per day you can send a message with them. I'll have to look up in the DMG exactly what they do, but I did give you guys sending stones last time. Holly, there's one on the ship, and then I can't remember who took the other one, but one of you guys has one, the other sending stone.
You guys and Holly both send the same message. Trouble, send help.
SOS. Need evac.
So I miss with my unarmed, but my quarterstaff will hit. It was an 18.
Yes.
And that is going to be 7 bludgeoning damage. And I am going to try to push on. And if I have to, I'm not sure if I have to slip by Kristoff or how that would look.
Well, since you're small, you can actually move through creatures that are larger than you, so you can very easily bypass Kristoff to get to the other side if you want to. To maneuver around the cliff face, though, it will require another skill check.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll make my dexterity check here and see how that goes.
It's a skill challenge combat.
Acrobatics. So that is 22.
Yeah, you expertly get to the other side. So you are now safe on the other side, far away from the reach of this creature that is plaguing this cliff face.
And I kind of turn around to face it still, just trying to be vigilant, understanding that I might need to go back and help my friends.
Perfect. Speaking of your friends, Kristoff, it is your turn.
So watching all of this occur and sort of, it's almost like he's stepping around, just like walking over this awful thing that's happening. I think as I'm clutching to the side of this cliff, what I want to try to do is some sort of fire magic. I'm not a very great druid. And so what I wanted to do is, let me see if I want to. Yes. What I would like to do is sort of by reflex is I want to put my hand on this thing, and on it centered, I want to cast the cantrip Create Bonfire.
Yeah.
And so it's a 5-foot cube that just immediately the bonfire ignites. Now it can make a dex save.
Okay.
Which against me right now at level 3
it's
is
super
15.
Failed. Super failed.
So you take D8 fire damage right away. And then basically, if it moves into the space or its turn ends in the space, it continues to make the saving throw and take a D8 fire damage.
And because it's an immobile plant, it will absolutely be starting every turn in that space. So go ahead and roll the initial damage, and then is it on its turn or your turn that it takes that ongoing damage?
On its turn at the end.
Perfect.
Basically on the end of its turn, if it's still there, it just D8.
Cool.
Okay, not bad. 2 for the first roll.
Is that not bad?
It's the worst.
I'd say that's pretty bad.
Second from worst. Penultimate worst.
It's literally penultimate worst. Yep. What does that look like as you conjure a bonfire on this thing's space?
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up, just straight up, that whole thing.
with the really quick prosthetic tentacles, just yep.
It's actually Wilford Brimley's face, made out of roots, so it sort of looks like that thing from Fraggle Rock. No, but that's essentially what happens, just instantaneously.
Beautiful. This plant has actually built a spaceship it's going to take you to it. It built it out of garbage. Christoph, is there anything else you want to do on your turn? Do you want to try and move away from this thing on your turn?
I would. Essentially stepping toward the way that Sander went.
Yeah, you can try and make it across if you want to with a skill check.
Okay. Will you let me continue to use survival?
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, man, that's looking rough. Okay.
Don't forget that inspiration I just gave you, son.
I think I'm going to use it right now. That's a modified 4.
Oh, yeah. That's a dirty 4.
That's a dirty 4. That's a fall into the lake 4. Okay. So that's a 12.
Okay. So
modified.
You don't fall, but you slip and grab onto these vines, and you're only able to move about 5 feet towards where Sander is. So you're still within range of this vine. It's an assassin vine. I don't know why I'm not saying what the monster is, and it's an assassin vine. So there you go.
It was really cool that you didn't for a while though, because it just made it more mystifying.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It's one of my favorite 3rd edition monsters, and they put it in Tomb of Annihilation, and I just had to use it.
Love it. Yep, that'll complete my turn.
So that was Christoph. So Edric, it is your turn. You have a lit torch in your hand.
All right, so I guess from where I'm standing, did I see the bonfire?
You do see the bonfire, yeah.
That's great, because that'll give me something to throw it at. Hey, I lit the torch. I took the action. I'm gonna throw it. All right. I need this. I need this this whole thing in my butt. So I'm gonna sneak out. Not sneak out, but I'm gonna go onto the ledge, and I will use athletics.
I pegged you for an athletics man, Mike.
Yeah, it was either that or
Nate's
history.
face when I said that was perfect. Athletics, you say?
I say.
Yes. So I will. Yeah, I'll use athletics to get on there without dying and shit. Okay, so that would be a 16.
You managed to move about 15 feet out onto the ledge.
Cuckoo. And I will throw yonder torch at yonder plant.
Throw yonder torch.
Yonder torch.
So that'll be an improvised weapon. You can do normal throwing stuff, so you can use your strength plus your proficiency bonus.
Cool. I will. Okay. Yeah. Let's just do that. Oh yes, indeed. So that would be a 25 to hit.
Damn. Yeah, that'll hit. So go ahead and give me a D4 bludgeoning and a D4 fire.
Well, all right then. So 3 bludgeoning and 2 fire for a total of 5.
So you don't think you've done a ton of damage, but you have just nailed this throw. You sort of throw it up, and the torch sort of lands in the mass of this thing. It sort of has this central sort of like, it almost looks like a, you know, the bulb on Bulbasaur's back? It almost looks like that up on this cliff face, and you sort of huck this torch right into that Bulbasaur. And it, you know, begins screeching even more, the tendrils sort of flailing. You see that the fire is not burning it away so much as it's just frightening it and doing a little bit of sort of surface damage. This thing is very wet, it's very jungly, and so it's not taking a ton of damage from the fire, but it's definitely shying away from it, especially given the fact that there's a bonfire immediately under it right now. So good job, Edric. Back on the Sable, Holly, you are toe-to-toe with the Heldrithine elf in melee with her right now. What would you like to do?
Holly knows how difficult it is to manage a heavy crossbow in melee. The first thing she's going to do is fire a bolt out over the ship. Starboard side, not at the Heldrithine elf. She, at that moment, is going to use an action surge. She's going to drop her crossbow. She pulls out her hand axe, and she brings it up to try to meet the Heldrithine elf right in the chest. Well, we didn't start with inspiration, did we? That's a total of 13.
13 is not enough. She again brings up this shield of liquid metal that just sort of deflects your hand axe.
Not exactly what she wanted, but she still feels it. There's something about knowing something. You don't realize you know it until there's no other way it can be. She still feels that arrow. It begins turning through the air, seemingly on its own, this seeking arrow, and it comes right around the back of this Heldrithine elf. Dexterity saving throw, DC 11, to avoid getting hit by the seeking arrow that she fired.
She makes it.
Okay, then she will take a total of 5 damage. She takes half because she makes it.
Okay.
And she... what's cool is I could use this even if I didn't see her, but if it were to hit, I'd be able to learn their location. Just fun stuff for the
Dude,
future.
that's awesome. Arcane Archer is so cool. Again, she is surprised and a little impressed at your use of magic in conjunction with your archery. But that's not going to stop her from doing what she's about to do.
And while she's doing it, Holly's going to somehow manage, who are you? Something like that.
She smiles. And then... there we go. And then there's a flash of purple energy. And she disappears. And then immediately reappears 30 feet away at the helm. She says to you, "Who I am is not important." And you hear her voice in your mind. "It's what I'm here to do." And she wrenches the wheel to the left. Please make a dexterity saving throw.
$15.
You manage to keep your footing as she turns the ship hard left, and you see it sort of... and it catches on the anchors that you've put and lurches forward and begins sort of like crashing into the top of the trees.
Oh, they're never going to trust me with the ship again.
Back at the cliff face. Sander, you are on the other side. You see Kristoff is trying to get to the other side here, but he's sort of slipping and holding on to these roots. And you see that Edric has also moved into the cliff face. What would you like to do in your turn? Excuse me.
So how far away, if I move to Kristoff, do I feel like I would be in danger of being attacked by the vine still?
Yes, because he's only about 5-ish feet away from it.
Okay. Oh man, Let's see. I think what I'll do is I will move in position and extend my quarterstaff toward him. And that's it.
Yeah. So what that will be is you can use the help action. And so you're extending your quarterstaff out to help Kristoff. And so on his next skill check, he'll get advantage as he's trying to cross this cliff face.
Perfect.
Speaking of which, Kristoff, it is your turn.
So I think, as I clutch onto this, I'm barely holding on, and I feel like perhaps the roots pull away a little bit from the cliff, sort of thing. And instinctively, I go to grab something. There's nothing there, but you sort of but Sanders' staff snaps into my palm right when it needs to. And I sort of, I fall back and he pulls me back up. And I am going to switch from making a survival. And I'm going to do I think I'm going to go acrobatics, sort of like trying to. Okay. So that's a modified 14.
Did you roll with advantage?
I didn't, because I don't even D&D, bro. Yeah, nat 20.
Nat 20. You absolutely.
Nat 20.
You make it to the other side. You along with Sander, he sort of yanks you forward, and you manage to scale this cliff, and you are safe on the other side now.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, Sandy.
Good teamwork.
That was amazing.
Thanks for that 20, man.
The vine is going to take some fire damage. Would you mind rolling that, please, Kristoff?
Oh, I would love to. Come on, big numbers. Big numbers. I need a big, fat, pregnant 8. That's a 1. That's what I get for talking trash.
All right. Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot. It seems to be acclimating to its new bonfire home.
These digs ain't so bad.
Hey,
I like fire.
This ain't so bad. All right, Edric. What is Edric's AC? It's some obscene number now, isn't it? 17. Oh no, it's Sander with the obscene AC.
Well, I have 17. If I activate the shield, then it's 19.
Oh, then it's 19. That's right. So you do have obscene AC. Okay, cool. So with or without the obscene AC, a vine whips out at you, and you manage to. So it's trying to entangle you, and I imagine that you actually catch it in your hand, Edric, and like stop it from wrapping you, and you're sort of like, now you're sort of grappling it. Just this big, strong dude sort of grappling this vine that's trying to grapple you as it whips out at you. It is your turn, Edric.
All right. Okay, so I guess grabbing. I'm probably gonna actually like keep grabbing the vine, but I'm gonna try and pull it. As I'm pulling down, I basically want to just rip the vine right off or right out. So if I need to use I guess that's be like an opposing strength check or.
Yeah, you can give me athletics if you want, and this thing will oppose with its strength.
Athletics it is.
Did not roll hot.
I only got a modified 16.
Well, I only got a modified 7, so you are good.
I accept.
You managed to. This thing is strong. You can feel the strength of this thing. You can feel the plant fibers of this thing are like little muscle sinew. Like they're taut and they're pulling on you. But you reel back and you rip it, and just the vine comes loose, and this plant sort of. A motorcycle drives by. This plant ichor just sort of splatters out and sort of splatters across your face. You feel it stinging a little bit as it splashes across your face.
And just for a moment, I kind of go back to being that young kid in Aldemir, and like lifting up the hay bales as they're like like into the roof of the barn. I'm just pulling on this rope and just not realizing how strong I was as a kid, but just one big hard tug and just the hempen rope just snapping, and the Hail Bay. Wow. The Provokers, directed by Hail Bay. Hail Bay, now with 150% more lens flare. Hay bale, just crashing down, and my father being angry. And I just look at it again, just staring at this thing. And I begin, like, kind of shake myself out of it, and I begin to go forward around the scary cliff.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a skill check to try and get on the other side.
All right. Very nice. That is a 23.
23. That'll do it. You managed to get to the other side into the arms of your waiting companions, and you all kind of look up at the cliff face and you see this assassin vine that was hugging the cliff. You see it actually sort of shamble upwards and disappear over the verge of the cliff, its vine sort of coiling behind it as it escapes this bonfire that is raging beneath it. You have all managed to get across the chasm and have survived your encounter with an assassin vine. Good job, everybody. Back on the Sable. Holly, you're sort of leaning against the edge of the boat. This woman very casually sort of walks across the deck of the ship as the Sable is sort of crashing through the trees slowly, like slow motion crashing. The blade sort of goes into her gauntlet, and she says,
"You asked who I was. It is not important. But I know who you are, Holly Rast. And I know who your father is."
She looks at you from across the ship.
"I sent him where he is now."
She gestures, and a doorway, for lack of a better word, opens beside her, a tear in the space beside her. She steps through, and as she does, she gives you like a mocking sort of toodaloo wave as she's stepping through the door, and then it closes, and you are left on a slowly crashing, careening airship. We're going to take a break. Combats are over, and I am so hot. I really need to just go stand in front of my air conditioner for like 5 minutes. So we're going to take a quick break. Everybody, thank you for hanging out in the chat. And this has been an awesome game so far. Having a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. This is great. I'm so excited. We're going to continue here in about 5 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and put the little splash screen up. But I'm not going to mute the mics so that we can. Well, you all know. We'll be right back. And the mics are not muted.
But you are, Tim. You're muted.
Coming soon. The Mecha Hack. Tax break. This book has paper facial recognition software. Hardwired to capture your social security number. Play a mecha with a 32 petaflop blast processor and reactor calculator. This book is loaded with deadly fiscal enemies. Like the guy in the Statue of Liberty costume twirling a sign outside of the H&R Block. You can funnel like 1 million untraceable hot and readies through an offshore shell Little Caesars. And remember, when it comes to this, cash is king, baby. and kings can be murdered in cold blood by fraud. Get your copy of Mecha Hack Tax Break with your Memos tax return as soon as it's direct deposited.
Arm yourselves with C4 and W9s.
In Mecha Hack Tax Break.
That's my new thing. I'm gonna make that my new thing when we come back from break. I'm gonna do like a "the king approaches" type, like whenever we come back. I think that's cool.
Good.
Never seen anyone do that before. Hey everyone, we're back. Thanks for sticking with us. I went and cooled off for a little bit and stood in front of my air conditioner, and I think we're gonna continue here. So, Holly, you are on the Sable as it is crashing. You see Keenra's body slide across the deck in a pool of blood, sort of crash against the side, and you see him kind of move a little bit, coming to as he's being tossed around, much like a dinosaur lasagna would be. That's the first time where that callback's actually made sense.
Right.
So Holly, what would you like to do here? You're about 30, 40 feet away from the helm.
Holly, for these few seconds, feel just a bit longer. She hears a word echo in her mind. Achaten. She doesn't speak Draconic, but there she is again, facing the driver of the cart, loaded with barrels. She knows the word for medicine. Achaten. All smugglers are carrying Achaten, and she can tell by the look on this one's face. She nods to Burke, walks to the back of the cart, again loaded with barrels, looks around and picks one. What's it going to be this time? Drugs? Something worse? She opens up just one. Tucked inside of the cave is a mother, a father, and a child. Something she did not expect. This is a cart she would have to stop. But she doesn't even consider it. She almost acts like a machine. She replaces the cover of the keg, looks to Burke and nods. His hand is on his sword hilt. And she says, Achaten. Hits the cart twice, waves it forward. The beasts of burden in the front make noise, sway, and continue on. She feels the ground rumble underneath her as the trees in the jungle.
Oh no!
Jungle.
Oh yeah.
Check.
Yeah, he's back. Okay, awesome.
She feels the ground underneath her rumble as the trees in the jungle are shoved up against the ship, crashing into them. So in her mind, now listen, you're going to have to forgive me. My naval experience is, the resume is basically one thing, and that's Sea of Thieves. And so I don't really know too much about ships, but I imagine that in my mind, I would love to be able to manually turn the ship back because I can't reach the helm. And in my mind, I would imagine that would involve me like grabbing a rope and jumping off the other side of the ship to like pull that sail this direction to veer it back away from the trees. I don't know if that's possible on this type of ship.
It sounds cool, so I will let you try it.
She grabs a rope that's coiled up and lifts it over her shoulder and acts like she almost check.
You're back. Yay.
Oh,
okay,
God.
awesome.
No, and she acts like a machine. She acts without thinking. She grabs the rope. She jumps over the edge of the ship in an attempt to allow her gravity, her weight, to pull it back.
Go ahead and give me an acrobatics or athletics, whichever is higher for you.
They're both the same. She'll do it acrobatically. Oh, sweet. 21.
Beautiful.
She's like Legolas pulling the Mumakil.
Yep, exactly that. You know, this leviship it's not like a ship on the water. It's not buoyant in anything. It's not sitting in anything. It is just floating there, and any sort of weight will rock it back and forth. And so you grab this rope and dive over the side, and as you do so, the ship rights itself, scrapes across the top of the trees, and then floats up as it's righted.
And she's battered by these trees because she's down underneath the ship. She's hit, bam, by the canopy of the forest over and over again. She's scarred, she's bloodied, but she's holding on, and she screams one word: Keenra! Keenra!
And there's nothing for a long time. The ship just kind of floating, scraping along the tops of the trees, you hitting branches, getting battered. And then, hang on, really quick. You feel something. You feel a force overtake you. You feel yourself floating. You're not being dragged down anymore. And you realize that you don't even need to hold on to the rope anymore. You're just levitating. And you can pull yourself up the rope, not even needing to drag your weight, as you essentially levitate upwards. And as you come over the top of the ship, you see Keenra. And he's leaning against the side of the ship, blood just pouring out of this wound in his chest, breathing heavy. You see him cough up blood. And you see he's holding a wand in his hand.
She runs over to one of the crates that he was stocking or taking logistics of, and points to multiple crates and says, Akaten. Akaten?
And he would point, trying to speak, only blood coming out of his mouth. He points towards, there's a small chest with a padlock on it. He makes a gesture, and you see the padlock go and break and fall off as he casts knock. The chest pops open, and you see there are 6 healing potions inside.
She grabs 2 in one hand, pockets one more, and runs to Keenra. And as she's handing him the healing potion, and as he takes it, she wonders for a moment. She holds on to it, maybe for a split second too long, like, wait a second. This is the corner that maybe I've painted him into, but she lets it go.
He takes it, pops the cork, and you see him pour about half of it on the wound. And you see it sizzling as it begins cauterizing and healing, the blood clotting quickly. And then he drinks the rest of it and drops the bottle, and he sort of slides down to the deck, waiting for the healing potion to complete its work. He nods to you. Thank you. Thank you.
She falls down kind of next to him, sits. She knew who I was, but she underestimated the ship. And she looks around. Does she understand that it was the leviship's ability that allowed her to so easily climb back up? Is that what happened?
No, you sort of realize that Keenra cast a spell on you using that wand. He cast levitate on you as you were being dragged.
I think Holly thinks it was the ship, right? Because she didn't see it, so she's like, "Oh man, this something cool about this leviship." And here's Keenra holding this wand.
He kind of looks at you, and he's like, and he just shakes his head and kind of tucks the wand away. Where is she? Did she leave?
Through a door in the air.
A door in the air. I am familiar with this spell. She won't be far. We need to go before she comes back.
She thinks for a moment, remembers the sending stone. She moves over to a bag or I think there's a chest, and she pulls it out. God, I'm an idiot. And thinks about a message that she might send to her companions. She has only one. And so she pockets it, looks into the distance, and says, if we're going to leave, we're going that way. And she points in the direction that the Provokers went.
He nods. I don't have the strength to argue.
Oh, that's a surprise. She stands up at the helm and she begins attempting with her best skill and ability to pilot the ship on her own.
Perfect. All right. We're going to cut back to the other Provokers. Before we do that, though, I just got a text from my wife and my dog threw up, so I need to go deal with that for a second, and then I'll come back and we'll continue. So you guys are free to talk and interact with the chat, do whatever you want to do. I will be right back. I promise.
Good.
We're free to
Enjoy
roam
cleaning
about
up
the
that
camp.
puke. My dog just puked, so I'm going to go puke on top of it to mark my territory. So it's just going to take a little bit to, I got to shove the finger in my mouth and make sure it happens. So sorry, guys.
No
I'll be right
dog's gonna out puke me.
back. No. Oh, Pete on the floor too? Well, hold on one second.
Well then, we got a classic Uno Dos Tres happening in here.
Lift
I
my
know
leg
how
up
this
here.
works. Alpha.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've actually been like grabbing my wife's hairbrush and just grabbing mouthfuls of hair and eating it. So when my cat has her hairball, I'm going to show her. I'm going to show her.
Show her how it's done.
So I'm going to be like, look, amateur hour's over. Let me show you how a real hairball is formed.
Things like a freaking bocce ball sized patch of brunette.
With like,
I love bocce.
Dude, bocce is the best. Bocce is the best lawn game.
all right, so I have heard that a lot, but I've never, like, I couldn't tell you what a bocce ball is, but that's like, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard that phrase a lot, like, hey, bocce ball.
It's like one of those, it's like a game like horseshoes or shuffleboard or like, honestly, like curling, where you have a smaller ball and each team tries to throw the larger ones as close as they can to the, oh my gosh,
Track?
I'm forgetting.
Is it? No.
There are a couple names for it. Oh, dang. Someone in the chat will know.
Yeah, it's kind of like lawn bowling a little bit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It is fun.
Because
It's
I'm a
no
big fan of
cube,
stuff like
but
that.
it's good.
I miss lawn darts. Those incredibly deadly things like, hey, let's all go out to the backyard, have a few beers, and like launch around like 10-inch long metal spikes.
No,
in the air. Surely nothing would possibly go wrong.
No, the Romans were known for their skill at lawn darts at the Battle of Alesia.
Yes, actually. Romans used to carry darts in the backs of their shields. They were actually throwing darts. They were really like fairly heavy. They're about 2 pounds, and there was just like probably about something like a 6 or 7 inch metal spike, and they would pull it off the back and they would throw them apparently like much like a football, because again, it's it's a fairly heavy metal dart with generally with like bird fletching, and they would just toss them. They found actually a few of them in like in shields and things like that. Yeah,
That'd be
Very
super
cool.
handy in the shield wall. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing your thing and you're like, oh, hey.
anyway, so once the rash cleared up, I was totally, oh hey man, how's it going?
What?
Hey
He
guys.
doesn't believe that. It didn't clear up, man. Come on.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, come on, Mike. You're not.
Once the
fooling
rash
anybody.
spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. My dog just decided to puke, and I wasn't gonna let my pregnant wife clean up throw up, so I had to go deal
So
with that.
was it like Exorcist or that funny moment from Monty Python's A Meaning of Life?
It was like a little from column A, a little from column B.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
For like Team America World Police. I think.
Yeah. No, she hasn't been feeling well, and I think honestly, I think it's the heat that's making her, because it's just miserable here right now. So I think that's what it is. Okay. Anyway, so Kristoff, Sander, and Edric, you three are moving again through the jungle. Is there anything that you'd like to do in particular after that encounter with the assassin vine, as you're sort of moving through the jungle here, anything you guys want to talk about or do before we move on to the next thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think no. I mean, other than checking on everyone, making sure everyone's okay, I think.
Yeah, I think the one who took the most damage was probably Kristoff. And are you still looking okay, Kristoff?
I'm looking okay. Yep.
All right. So you move through the jungle again, and Kristoff, you get to sort of this clearing. The trees sort of break. You're maybe cutting through with a dagger or something, and all of a sudden you step forward and there's no longer this dense foliage. You're sort of looking out at this clearing, and you see that there's sunlight filtering through this hole in the canopy, and you see leaves, pollen sort of lazily floating through this beam of light. The light itself falls upon something resting in the crook of a tree. It's hard to tell from this distance, but you get the sense that it's a figure of some kind, sort of lounged back in this tree. You see the vague sort of notion of legs, arms, a humanoid shape resting there.
Everything moves as slowly as the pollen that's adrift. And I feel like sound washes to the back of my mind, and I think that almost like a humming or ringing or something in between just begins to take over my senses. And then I look to my companions to see if they see this as well.
And as you step into the clearing with him, Edric and Sander, you do see this still motionless figure as well.
I will look at the figure, then I'm just going to look at Kristoff. Do I notice a resemblance?
It's hard to tell from this distance. And it looks like whatever this is, it's been here for a long time, and the moss and the vines have begun to overtake it.
Should we get closer?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've come this far. Let's just... It's strange. I don't feel like we should be careful. Which sounds stupid.
Sander would start walking forward, but kind of taking a side path, like just kind of still wary for some reason. Yep.
And I'd be grabbing my my poleaxe. I'd actually probably even activate my shield. Have my shield floating, and I'd probably be standing like really close to Kristoff, just kind of a protectorate kind of a stance.
Yeah, and I almost envision like camera shot looking toward us walking, and I could see like Sander taking this far flank on a widescreen, just like barely in frame, and then you just see Edric just, this broad, tall figure with Kristoff sort of in his silhouette as this pollen just dances as we approach this figure.
You move up to this tree and you see that the plant life here is concentrated. There are ferns and vines snaking up this tree. There is moss growing up the trunk. And Kristoff, even though it's a skeleton, you immediately know who this is as you sort of round the corner and you see this person lounging back against the tree. 3 arrows with blood red fletching protruding from his torso. Nero lies here, dead, overtaken by the jungle. You see something clasped in his right hand.
There's a failure in language to describe the sudden nature of knowing something that you denied for a long time. And there's also something to be said of believing with an asterisk that your brother is dead. Seeing the evidence, seeing the body, seeing these clothes, these same clothes that I probably watched him leave in. And then not even being able to see the person that was my brother, but looking beneath the skin to a skeleton that probably looks like a stranger. So seeing all of this familiar and seeing all of this foreign puts Kristoff in a bit of a state of shock. And I think he would probably stop very close and drink all this in, not really being able to respond fully.
I think Sander would be standing to the side, able to see Kristoff's face, and would know what's happening here, and would begin to kind of approach a little closer to Kristoff, and just put my hand on his back.
I don't believe I would say anything. I would probably just take Kristoff and put my arm around his shoulder and probably just hug him in, like just in with one arm, kind of on the side.
And with Edric's broad arm draped across my shoulder and with Sander's small palm on my back, I feel like I would break. I don't forgive you. I don't forgive you. You were supposed to come back. I don't forgive you. And he turns in and sobbing, he squeezes Edric and snots and cries and has just his face buried in this mountain of a man.
The wind picks up a bit as Kristoff, you're sort of sobbing. The wind blows through the clearing, carrying with it leaves and the must of the jungle, the mildew. There's a fluttering as the wind brushes past the crimson fletching of these arrows, and a bit of parchment that is clutched in the skeletal hand of your brother.
It's probably the better part of an hour of just grieving. And I imagine that between Sander and Edric, maybe sitting on a log even, just staring at this skeleton that is just phasing in and out of being my brother, being a piece of scenery, being clothing, being a memory, flashing back to when he woke me up. And I think it takes a while before I finally stand and I approach this thing with a strange reverence, a fear, but also a longing to recognize my brother again. And I just stare into the sockets that are overgrown and strange and weirdly non-human, weirdly just matter, just bone, just something, not someone. And I think I absently maybe touch his tunic, and I startle away because it just, the connection of touching it is an acceptance of death. And then I grab the parchment. And then I must enter the phase that is anger, because I take and I snap both of the arrows out of the skeleton. I grab them in my hand. I walk over to Edric. I walk over to Sandy. And I just, I can't read this right now. I don't even know. I don't know. I can't read right now. And I hand it to Sander.
The parchment, as you grab it out of the hand sort of opens up, and this small, like oddly colored metallic sphere sort of rolls out as well. You see that it's sort of etched with runes. It almost looks a little similar to the stone sphere that Sander carries, but it's metal. It's obviously newer than the one that he has, and it's a little smaller. That comes with the parchment as well.
I'd hand that to Edric. As it sort of drops, I just reflexively pick it up. I've got the arrows. I've got just a handful of these trinkets, these things that were something that were once important and now are just trash in the jungle. And I hand the sphere to Edric, and I say, hold that. And I hand the parchment to Sander and I say, I read it. I can't read it. And I glare at these arrows.
Do you read the parchment, Sander?
Yeah, I would say I would not read it out loud. I would just look at it myself first.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of hastily scrawled, and looking at it, you sort of get the sense that it's actually somewhat of a to-do list. The first item says, "The Archon waits beyond the stone door on the plateau." The second item says, "Brush up on Kazran history." The third item says, "Get souvenir for Chris."
So I would say it looks like a short list of tasks. A to-do list. And I would show I would probably first show Edric.
What's it say, Mr. Sander?
And then I would read it. The Archon waits beyond the stone door on the plateau. Brush up on Kazrin history. Get souvenir for Christoph.
What you mean? There's a stone door here. There's a magic door.
Actually, it was just Chris, right?
Yeah, it just said Chris.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It seems to indicate there's a stone door here. What is Christoph doing? Are you attentive to this, Christoph, or are you kind of still zoning out?
Probably just both. More like I'm hearing it and I don't know what to do to process it. Just this weird adrenaline. Like that's sort of, you're in the moment, but you're literally just chemically enhanced to the point where you're just drifting through the moment. And you did read it out loud, right?
Yeah, I did after Edric asked.
Yeah, I think that maybe I would overhear that. And I think that I would say, "Oh yeah, is get murdered on there? How about that? How's what's number 4? Get murdered. Number 5, don't watch your back. Huh? Souvenirs. Look at this." And I take the arrows and I chuck them into the woods. We probably need those. The only evidence that I have. I got to go get those. And I walk over to go pick up the arrows from the woods.
You go into the woods, leaving Edric and Sander behind you. And you sort of find one of the arrows and stoop down to pick it up. And as you get back up, you look and you see standing between 2 trees is Nero. Or a piece of Nero. Something from Nero. This vague recollection of him outlined in leaves and pollen and light and shadow. He kind of cocks his head and looks at you. And you're not sure how, but you get the sense that he's grinning at you with sort of that lopsided smile. And again, he beckons you, and then the wind picks up and the leaves scatter and he's gone.
And I think just as the leaves disappear, I throw the arrow at it. Just like, you're the worst.
Edric, you're holding this metallic sphere in your hand, and it's kind of giving you the heebie-jeebies, for lack of a better phrase. It's as soon as you took it in your hand, you felt the hairs on your arms and on the back of your neck kind of stand up, and you just get the sense that there's some kind of power, energy inside of this thing that's leaking from it.
Yeah, I mean, when Christoph put it in my hand, given the situation, I'd probably be holding it as if I was holding like a newborn chick or a very fragile egg. You know, both hands would be cupped. Oops, there we go. You know, both hands would be cupped, and I'd be holding it like very, very gentle. And this feeling, I would just turn to Sander and say, "Mr. Sander, I don't like this thing. It feels off. It's more than magic or stuff. I don't know much about it, and I don't know if it's gonna zap me or if it's gonna turn me into some sort of a bleak storm or worse. Can you take it? I mean, you've dealt with these things before, except yours was made out of stone. This is made out of metal, but maybe you could have a look at it."
I would probably lean into or dig into my pack actually, and maybe it's on my belt pouch, and pull my own out and just kind of hold it in my hand and look at it and kind of invite Edric to look at it as well.
Tim got me in the chat. Sander, if you want to give me an Arcana or a History check as you're looking at this sphere and kind of comparing the two spheres. You're muted, Nathaniel.
Well, it's a good thing I haven't said anything yet.
Oh, good. Okay. It looked
Stalling
like
as I tried to
you
dig out
were
my
saying something. So
No, I had, but I was stalling as I was trying to dig out my character sheet here.
Gotcha.
Those are both abysmal, so yeah, it's gonna be. But I rolled a 19, so that'll be an 18.
I imagine you may actually, you probably have encountered these before. These are called soul spheres, and they are the primary energy source of the Khazran Empire. They are metallic spheres made of things like mithril, adamantium, and inside are stored the energy from souls. And Khazran loved necromancy, and they figured out a way to make it into an energy source. A lot of the technological wonders of the Khazran Empire were powered by things like these.
Well, they certainly share some similarities. And maybe I would kind of reach out to take it from Edric, his sphere.
Okay, you immediately explode. No, it's fine. You take it. You definitely feel the power in it, but there's not any sort of reaction between the two.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sander. I'm quite happy to be rid of it. Do you think that maybe we shouldn't let them two, get too close? I mean, do you think something would happen?
I don't know. It's possible, I guess, but yes, that'll keep them separate here, and I, probably would tuck one of them into my belt and put the other one in my pack.
Do you think Mr. Kristoff's going to be all right?
He's he seems resilient. I don't know.
I hope so. I ain't never had to lose someone, so I can't really, what's that word when you want to feel like someone else does, but I want to be able to feel like he does, but I haven't lost no one, so I can't be that person. I just wish I could say something to him, make him feel better, but when I was sad, my mom used to, but she would make me some muffins, like these really nice, like apple with a bit of crumble on top and some brown sugar, and that always make me happy. But I don't think there's enough muffins in Aldermere right now. I hope he'll be happy again, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there's only so much we can do, and he needs friends, and we are here. And I guess I would probably go and kind of, start looking around for Kristoff now, and maybe walking in the direction we saw him walk.
And I think that I would sort of kind of come to meet you as you kind of, I can see what you're doing. And so I sort of walk toward you. I put one of the arrows in your hand if you'll take it, and I go, well, the good news is my pecker of a brother is also a ghost. No, you go ahead.
Are you saying you saw something there in the brush over there?
Yes. Listen, my head's not on straight. I get that. But I keep seeing this shape. His shape. Same cocky pose. It's made up of this place, though. The pollen, the light, the leaves, and as soon as I approach it, it blows away. But it's leading us somewhere. You said there was a list? Sander, I can't hear you. Can you speak up?
It could be leading us. And I show you the note. To the stone door. Perhaps we should follow.
And I would look. I wouldn't take the note, but I would just look at it. And I would look at Sander and I'd look at Edric. You guys didn't sign up for this. So I'll understand if you don't want to do this.
We're your friends, Mr. Kristoff. If you'll have us, we'll go with you.
We made up our minds once we got on this boat. And again when we got off.
Okay. Yeah. You're right. Okay. All right. What's on my brother's grocery list? It's a door. Something about a door. Find a stone door.
Stone door. Brush up on Kazran history. And get souvenir for Chris. So. Here we go.
Okay. The door I think I could find, but I don't know much about Kazran.
I know a bit more than average, I suppose. But most of my knowledge is tied up in crumbling objects.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, okay, well, good. What about that? What about that thing? The thing that fell out of his hand?
It appears to be an orb, and I pull it out of my belt. Somewhat similar to the other one. It is certainly of Kazrin, and it was once very powerful. Perhaps it still is, but I have no clue how to unlock it.
And I think I sort of lean in to look a little bit as you speak.
Did you ever see him with this?
Not that I can remember. No, this is strange because it's too shaped, it's too formed, it's worked metal. Just doesn't. It's not our family's thing. So this is actually sort of uncharacteristic. But I don't know why he was out here. I don't know what he was doing. He was.
Maybe he found it up here.
Yeah, Ed, that's actually a really good idea.
I know, I'm as surprised as you. Maybe it's maybe it's by the stone, or maybe he found it near the stone door. Maybe this doorway or something is well, we're supposed to use this metal ball that as Mr. Sander has, and it's supposed to do something with the stone door or something. I mean, people don't normally build doors when they don't build walls and they don't build homes or other buildings. So, I mean, just to build a door just seems a little thick. So it's got to be some kind of a magic thing. Now, you're the magicer. You know all about this fancy stuffs.
Yeah. Sometimes I think you're the smartest of a lot of us, Ed.
Well, then it appears that we are probably doomed. I hope not.
Well, what do you say? You want to find a door?
Let's do it.
Shouldn't be too hard in a jungle to find a door.
And then I think Sandy, you lead the way.
You're the one who saw. Which way?
And Christoph still not wanting to accept the fact that people want to help him. It's like he's pushing it away, or even trying to get Sander to go ahead. It was this way. And Matt, I think we set off after the ghost.
So you walk for maybe another half hour in that direction, and as you do, the forest begins to give way to ruins, and you find yourselves walking through crumbling stone walls, broken down domiciles. You see the remnants here of a Kazrin city that once stood atop this plateau, now blasted by dragonfire and overtaken by the jungle that has sprang up here. You move through these ruins, and soon enough you find yourself at this great wall, this titanic wall. You see that it almost comes up to the height of the trees, and though it has stood here for many thousands of years, it stands firm. And you see at the center of this wall a great seamless door set with stone tiles, each maybe 5 feet across, depicting some sort of scene. The other thing you notice almost immediately is the sable, which is moored against this wall.
About time, Holly mutters to dazed Keenra behind her. Hey.
And Keenra sort of looks weakly over the side of the boat, probably half asleep, and says,
They're here.
and he goes,
I will watch the ship for real.
Holly looks to Keenra and without hesitation nods and says, I trust you.
That may be your first mistake.
he nods.
Go. I'll be here when you get back.
Holly does a cool acrobatic slide down a rope or something like that off the boat and lands. Sees all of her friends are okay, maybe a little grubby, a little bloody. Looks to just everyone's alive. She sees Kristoff's face is a little bleak, and she says, without knowing what she's saying, she says, "Who died?"
And I think Kristoff would actually laugh for the first time. Since all of that, he would just... Not you, apparently.
Listen, I hate to disappoint. It was a close call.
What about him? He looks deader than my brother.
Sorry, there's an issue. When you're outside and it's past 8:30, the lights turn off. It's just impossible to... No motion detector can touch it. I'm sorry. I took my headphones off for a second. What did you say, Kristoff?
I said, I cast darkness. No, I basically just said, you said, who died? I said, not, apparently, not Keenra or whatever. And then I was essentially just saying, you made it, that sort of thing.
She thinks of the foe that she just faced on the ship. She sees her dad again and hears the words, I sent him there. And her fists clench for a moment. She feels that fiery energy, and then she breathes and it disappears. And she says, so, what's through the door?
And I feel like in a moment of matched obliviousness, I sort of look, because you look all frazzled and you're all how hard was it watching the ship with an old man?
I've got some stories for you.
Yeah. I've got some stories for you too. Sandy, do you have that list?
If
Sander
oh, go ahead.
Takes the note and hands it to Holly.
She looks at the note and immediately realizes what she's looking at. And she looks up at Kristoff and she says some sort of gutter speak, undercommon slang term for the F word. And looks back down at it and passes it back to Sander and says, well, I'm following you. To Kristoff, not to Sander. No, I kid.
Sander would start walking toward the door.
So the door is absolutely massive. It's maybe 20 feet high by 20 feet wide. And it has 4 massive stone fresco tiles on it, each one depicting a different scene. You see that there's the leftmost one depicts a man standing in front of a great throne with legions of dead warriors before him. There's a second man armored with his back to the first man. The next tile is the same man as before, the one who was standing in front of the throne, only this time he has a skull-like face, and he's sitting upon the throne. Dragons are overhead, fighting with griffins. You see that the world is burning around him, and the second man, the same one, lies dead at his feet. The third tile depicts both men as young men, seated before a king sitting on the throne. And the fourth and final one is the same man sitting on the throne, with the second one standing below him at the head of a great army. All of these seem to depict moments in Kazrin's history, and would require history checks in order to figure them out. Sander, as you're sort of inspecting the tiles, you can see that they all seem to be on these gutters, and they seem to be able to be slid, lifted up and slid. You also see that there is a tiny little spherical sort of indent in the door, just big enough for that sphere that you found.
Sander's gonna get a piece of paper.
Come on, Nate. I'm throwing a puzzle at you at midnight. Keep up.
All right. So, first one has.
Yeah, the first one is
2 men with an army behind them.
Yeah, so there's one guy standing in front of a throne with the second guy with his back to him, and there's an army of dead beneath them.
Okay. Gotcha.
I will now refer to these guys as Guy 1 and Guy 2.
Yeah.
Second tile is Guy 1 with a skull face with dragons burning the world around him. Guy 2 lies dead at his feet.
Dragons, griffins.
Yep, griffins as well.
Okay.
Third tile is Guy 1 and Guy 2 both standing at the foot of the throne with a third guy sitting in the throne. He's older, has a beard. Guy 1 is clutching a staff. Guy 2 is holding a sword.
Okay.
And then the fourth and final tile is Guy 1 sitting on the throne with Guy 2 leading a great army beneath him.
Got it. Guy 1 sitting on the throne. Guy 2 leading army.
Correct.
Okay. Well, looks like, and I would kind of slide one just a little bit, and it would move, right?
Yeah, it moves. It takes a little bit. It's clear that these haven't been moved in a long time, but you sort of break it loose of all the vines and stuff that have overtaken it, and you see that it sort of slides, and you can actually lift it up and slide it over the other ones, effectively changing their order.
Okay. Yeah, so I would just kind of give one a budge and go and look at my companions and say, looks like they move a little bit.
And then, Nate, there was also just so you don't forget, there's a spherical indentation to the left of the door that looks like it fits that sphere.
Okay. Well, it's telling us a story. And it appears that we need to move them to the correct order. So who knows the story? I would look at my companions.
I feel like everyone, all of us would look at Edric like expectantly.
I have negative modifiers in my intelligence. I don't know shit.
Me too.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Well, Well, that first one there, and quickly remind me. First one is the guy 1 and guy 2, but one guy's got a skull face, and they're
no, not yet.
beneath-
First one is guy 1, guy 2. Guy 2 has his back turned to guy 1. Army of the dead beneath his feet.
Okay, and then the second one is there are 3 individuals. The third one is
No, that's the third one. The third one has 3 individuals.
The second one then is the army, and one of them's dead.
Second one is one of them dead, and dragons and griffins fighting overhead.
Okay, so third one is the 3 guys, and then the fourth one is one guy's leading an army, the other one's sitting on the throne.
Yeah.
And I will just say that it's a well-known enough event in Aeronothian lore that you wouldn't even need to make a history check to recognize that tile number 2 is most likely depicting the Great Scorching.
Mm-hmm. It seems that it is easier to subtract an old man from the throne than it is to have an old man assume the throne all of a sudden. So it seems to me we start with the third man on the throne. Can you help me with this, Edric? And I would try to move that one.
Sure, I like to feel useful, and I'll just
Amazing stone sliding sound effects. That's like some Zelda cube pushing level sound effects, man.
So good.
Right. That's a pack of smokes a day, kid. That's what'll get you. Don't smoke.
I'm going to start right now.
Yeah. Don't smoke those, kids. It's really bad for you. Well, okay. So if there's this one king, and then there's these other 2, and they're looking up at him, I guess he must have died. So then one of them sat on the throne. Well, I suppose then the fourth one, this one here, he must have been the new king or new lord or something, and then he made whoever this is like the boss of the army.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I like the way you're thinking. That one must be second. The fourth
All right.
goes to the 2 position.
All right. Now just pick it up and pick it up and there it goes into the second one. Mm-hmm. Also, if anyone needs me to provide sound effects for any stone doors opening, I'm all for it. However, wooden doors, it has to be matte.
I specialize in chairs scraping against the floor and wooden doors opening. So I'm a freelance.
Yeah, and it's very good squealing. Yeah, no, it's very convincing.
All right, so we've got old men on the throne. We've got younger man on the throne with another one leading the army. And then we've got the back turning. So this one stays in the 3 position. And then in the fourth one, guy number 2 is dead.
Oh, right. And then, the dragons. That was the Great Scorching.
Indeed. I would pull the sphere out of my belt pouch, and I'm going to walk up and kind of look at my companions as I approach. Should I try this?
Absolutely.
What could go wrong? And Holly backs up a few steps.
All right, so Sander puts it in the indentation.
As you do so, a blue light sort of spiderwebs out from this spherical indentation. You see the light draw a line across each tile, and each tile draws a vertical line. Each tile moves either up or down, creating an opening in the door probably about 10 feet high. Good job, guys. Sander and Edric, go ahead and give yourselves points of inspiration for solving the puzzle. And yes, as Tim pointed out in the chat, I should have thought about the fact that he helped me make the timeline for the convocation, which is essentially the puzzle that we just did. So those tiles were designed by Tim. So,
But it was awesome, like seeing this in puzzle, dude. That was Asmunder AF.
it was Asmunder AF. It was Asmunder and his brother Eros and
Worm Wars.
Yep.
Great Scorching.
Yep.
I'm like,
yeah, and there was Daddy Willamar was in there too before he got poisoned by Asmunder. So
that's amazing.
So the door has opened. It's somewhat dark inside, and you can see that it's leading into some sort of stone structure.
I think we'd all sort of look at each other. I wasn't expecting it to work. Christoph wasn't. And so I think I'd sort of look at Holly, because this is where the 2 points converge. That craziness and this craziness makes a new craziness. So I sort of look at her like, what do you think, Rast? We going into this door?
She looks back up at the ship. She looks to the door. And she nods with a shrug. She looks around, though, and she says, this doesn't look like a plateau, but this jungle is something else. But she looks back to the door and she nods. No, I'm following you.
All right, everybody. Was one thing I learned being a cut rate mobster. It was who gets to go into the room first. So what do you say, Rast? You got a lot of practice kicking indoors.
I'll go.
Oh, Edric says he will.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's okay. Oh, but So can we even see beyond the doorway?
Not really. It's sort of the situation where it's like it's so bright outside that you can only see a few feet into sort of the dim of the structure.
I'm going to reach into my pack and I'm going to pull out another torch. Hey, kids at home, explorer packs. You know what? Use them. There's lots of stuff in there. Like,
Lots of
don't
good
just
stuff.
think because you have it. Trust me, there's lots of stuff in there. For example, a torch that I'm going to light, and instead of just walking into the darkened room, I'm going to throw a torch in there and see what happens.
So you light the torch, you toss it in, and you see that there's sort of a long flagstone walkway. The flagstones themselves are broken, shattered, upended from plant growth that has ripped through them, roots that have sort of snaked their way through, and you see the sort of the vague shape of massive pillars sort of leading deeper into the structure. Yeah, and there's going to be scarecrows in there, just FYI. You guys are here for a box of dirt.
Nice. Nice. I love dirt. I'll go. I'll look at the others and. Well, at least we know there's no, chasm in this doorway or something. Boy, we'd all be pretty embarrassed if we all fell to our deaths then, didn't we? Anyway, I'll go in and I'll grip my my poleaxe fairly tightly and just kind of. I don't know if it's my height or if I have to just stoop down, but I might be stooping down.
Oh no. Tim dropped and the whole overlay got effed up.
Hello, darkness, my old
No! Look at Nate. Nate's in like 3 different boxes.
You walk in the door,
Whoa.
and Sander is replicated into 3 different
God,
versions.
that's terrifying.
That look. Oh, that look.
Oh man. Let's see.
I thought Tim looked frozen. He had a permanent grin on, and I'm like,
He
what
did.
Is this about these?
Oh no, his internet went out.
No.
Any chance of getting back in? All right, so Tim's going to try and hop back in, and when he comes back in, I will fix the overlay. I'm actually very surprised because it actually didn't get that messed up. Like, everyone's still in their box for the most part. I'm sort of impressed by that. Chat has been very active tonight. Thanks, guys, for watching. Dude, I was...
Actually, can someone help me out?
What's up?
I'm old. What's ASMR again?
Oh, ASMR is... Oh, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's like when you hear certain sounds and they like make you all like tingly and stuff in your head, and they like make videos of people like rustling papers or like whispering or like doing different things that are meant to trigger like this response that certain people, I don't think everyone gets it, but certain people get it, where it's like
therapeutic or something.
Yeah, it's like therapeutic, or it's like it's helps with like anxiety and like sleep issues and stuff like that. So I think I saw that comment in the chat. They just want you to do relaxing, calming videos where you make stone shifting sounds. Just like, okay, everyone, today we're going to be making stone doors opening in a dungeon. That was a limestone door.
Yep, and then of course you have to do the... And then of course that's slate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to move this one over here.
And then it's like, and we have a guest star today. It's Matt Click is going to be doing some chairs scraping against the floor.
You just wanted an excuse to do your badass chair scraping.
You did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Dude.
But that's actually really interesting because I like white noise. Like, when I go to bed,
me too.
I like having a fan on. Like, even when it's winter and it's like, dude, it's winter in Canada. Turn your fucking fan off. I just like hearing it.
Yeah,
I just like hearing it just because it's peaceful and just it helps me just pass out.
It's kind of a similar idea where it's like it's just a like calming therapeutic noise or whatever. Comment here from Jackson Anderson in the chat. Hey Matt, how are you streaming the waterfalls in the middle? So Jackson, I'm just using OBS, Open Broadcast software, to do the overlay. And what I've done is I downloaded some stock video of looping waterfalls. I just did a search on iStock for looping waterfalls and downloaded the video and then put the video in the overlay as a video source, basically. So, yeah, OBS
Has anyone
is
found
cool.
the edit yet? Because I've been looking at that repeating waterfall.
I watched
forever,
it
and I
for way
cannot
too
figure it out.
long, and the loop, it loops right. It's so hard to see. There is there is a loop that happens, but it's almost seamless.
There it is.
Yep.
There it was. I just saw it pause for like
too.
just a brief moment, and then
it's almost seamless though, which is one of the reasons why I did it, is because I didn't want to have. There were a lot of cool like cameras panning through the jungle or like rain in the jungle that I was going to use, but the loop was really obvious, and I thought that might be distracting. So that was inspired by it's over here. Oh, that's weird. That was inspired by Lloyd Collins, the RLDM. He does a lot of cool overlay stuff for our Jade Horde game, and he's used like waterfalls and like jungles and things like that as we're sort of moving through the jungle, and it's always very immersive. So
yeah, he did this really cool like animated futuristic cityscape for the Star Wars game.
Yep. Yeah, he uses something similar for our Nomad game too. It's cool stuff, man. It's OBS lets you do cool stuff with like video and GIFs and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
What else is stuff? Oh, hey. So if anyone watches, it won't be until the 27th, but the Foundation will be coming to my channel. We're going to be playing the next one on the 27th of July, unfortunately. It's a bit of a wait, but it'll be worth it. It's an empire building campaign. So it's very open, very political. And all my players have aspirations for world domination. So I mean, it's like the story writes itself, kids.
Yeah.
It writes itself.
Foundation is great, man. Definitely check that campaign out. That's a great campaign.
I will be watching on the 27th, no doubt. I will be free to watch. I know that because in 10 days, I am flying to the mystical location.
Oh. And Tim's back.
Of Washington State. Tim's back. He's in my spot.
Yeah, he is in your spot.
Get out of my spot.
I'm back. I'm so sorry.
Dude, no worries.
I'm Mr. Kristoff.
Yeah, you're Kristoff. We're actually I like how Nate's in the same position. Everyone else switched. Nate's like, dude, I'm always Sander, man. You can't break me away from this.
I'm always Sander. Yeah, I don't know what happened. My internet just stopped cold.
Dude.
I have no idea what happened.
So if
No worries.
let me see if I can easily move people around.
I'll be Edric. Hey, Mr. Kristoff, I want to tell you a story about the Provokers. That's not quite. That's not good enough. I'm gonna stop because I love Edric and I don't want to like lampoon Edric. Edric is a gem.
I don't want to lampoon him.
I want to lampoon him.
Oh, I mean, you know.
Hey, man.
You know, I'm just, you half elves.
Hey, that was really easy. That was I was about to say, let's just keep it. I don't feel like messing, but that took like 15 seconds. Perfect.
Awesome.
Really well
All right.
Beautiful.
I'm going to continue stroking my owlbear stuffed animal as we continue the D&D game here. So before Tim dropped, you guys were heading into this structure. You could see sort of these pillars, these broken flagstones. This appears to be like some sort of throne room or audience chamber. It's very large. It's very grand. The ceilings are high and vaulted, held up by these massive pillars, which themselves are carved with similar frescoes to the tiles that you saw outside, depicting various different kings of Kazrin who helped build the empire as it was back then, 2,000 years ago. As you're moving into it, you see how the jungle has overtaken this place. You see the roots and the vines coming from below and above. You see the moss that has creeped in from outside. There's actually water dripping from the ceiling, collecting in pools, and you can see plant life growing from these pools. You actually walk by and you see fish swimming in one of these pools set into this like small sort of crater. And you can see that there are bugs, butterflies, even birds flying around in here. Nature has encroached on this place and claimed it for its own. And as you're sort of walking in and taking all of this in, a voice booms out at you from the darkness. "For wayward souls enter. But what do they want? With an old god." and this massive creature moves out from the darkness. It is stark white, covered in fur. It's somewhat feline in appearance. It almost appears as a gigantic albino tiger. But in place of a mane, it has a long beard. And on its head are antlers. And you see in the antlers, there's a bird's nest, and there are birds coming and going from this nest and its antlers. This creature towers over you. It almost seems too big for this space. As it pads out of the darkness, it peers at you with feline eyes. But what do they want? It asks them.
Sanders already pretty low to the ground, but he's like sinking in here. He's frozen.
I just stop and stare up at this giant individual. I look at Holly and look at Kristoff and hope that they do something a lot braver than I'm feeling right now.
All the blood has left Holly's face, and she's just staring at this thing, this immense thing referring to itself as an old god, seemingly. She looks a side glance to Kristoff and says, what did your brother want?
And I think as this thing stoops down to peer at us, every hair on Kristoff's body stands on end. And almost as a magnet might draw a bullet from a wound, this thing pulls this druidic magic to the surface of me, not out of me, but to the surface of me. And we've seen Kristoff have different actual pieces of wood and vine break through his flesh and become armor, and this sort of occurs, but just on the surface. So cheekbones of like sandalwood, and like sort of just this wood sort of is pulled out of Kristoff, just like, but it doesn't feel wrong. And through teeth now filled in the center with vines and perhaps even eyelids of leaves, I look up at this thing and I just say, "You're why my brother was here, aren't you?"
This creature cocks its head and looks at you, Kristoff, noting your changes with curiosity. Then it says, "Let me shed some light on our conversation." And it sort of takes a breath and exhales, and as it does, this bioluminescence overtakes all of the plant life here, including the pollen that is floating in the air, and this prismatic light just fills this room. It's almost blinding at first, and then it sort of settles into this soft, almost calming, pleasing glow.
There. That's better. It can see you now.
And this creature sort of sits on its back haunches, much like a cat would. And as it does so, there's a sort of rumble that shakes the foundations of this place, and dust falls from the ceiling.
Brother. A word meaning familial connection. Your brother was like you. Came here looking for answers. He did not find them. What answers do you seek, druid?
I'm going to ask you a selfish question. Well, and something sort of clicks in Kristoff. All of these different pieces of what his family expects are being literally pulled to the surface. But Kristoff remembers himself in this moment, and he's not who his family wants him to be. He's not his brother. He's Kristoff Stormraven. And he says, I'd actually just like to ask you, how are you doing? How have you been?
How?
And it sort of like tries the word out.
How? I've been here. How? Long time. I have never been asked this question, so I have no answer. It cannot perceive how it is doing. It is customary when meeting new creatures and to supply names. Your names, I see them, though they are not the names you know you have. What are the names given to you?
I am Kristoff Stormraven.
He looks to Holly.
And you?
Rast. Holly Rast.
Magic in your blood. I smell it.
He looks to Sander.
And you, wanderer?
Sander Dinara. And I give a little bow.
Such an interesting item in your pocket. Almost as old as me.
And it like flashes its fangs. It looks at Edric.
You. I was not expecting you. What is your name?
My name is is Edric Meadows.
Yes, that's right.
I know that's right. I mean, I know my own name. Were you expecting us?
I have many names, none chosen by me. I've been called God, Sphinx, but most here call me Atma. I am the Archon of Spirit.
What does an Archon of Spirit do? I mean,
do. An interesting question. Again, not one I have been asked before. I tend to this place, restoring balance. The scales here were tipped long ago by one like you, a mortal who sought to wield godlike power. He called forth creatures you call dragons, and they laid waste to this place. It is time for this place to return, to heal. I am ensuring its healing, along with the one who came before.
who?
The Storm Raven, like this one. And it would indicate Kristoff with its antlers as a bird flies out. The Storm Raven is part of the forest now. It is the forest now. It is part of me, just as Aronoth is a part of me. But he is greatly troubled. His spirit is restless, uneasy, incomplete. Have you come to complete what he started? Storm Raven?
And Kristoff has this strange, guilty thought. And as this enormous creature is speaking, he has this moment of like, oh no. And so he's listening and he's taking it in, and it's important. And while this Archon is speaking to him, he looks over to Sander and he goes, I didn't even bury him. I left him standing in the woods like a stranger. And sort of remembering and then tuning back into the Archon.
That was not him. No. That ceased being the Storm Raven long ago. He is here now, with us. He is in me just as he is in you. He is the woods. The woods are him, and I am the woods too. Where are the woods?
My brother's here now.
He never left. These fragile containers that hold our spirit and matter are merely that. Containers. He's free now. Rejoined with the spirit of the world. He is part of the breath, the way. You know the way, young Stormraven, just as he did.
And hearing that, I feel like Kristoff knows it's true, but doesn't believe it, or doesn't believe that he is good enough. But he mutters to himself, "You sound like my dad."
Your father is a great druid, though his pride hinders him.
Thank you. See? And I look around like they would know. You see?
As he continues, as your recklessness and short-sightedness hinder you, young Stormraven.
See?
What were we supposed to be looking at? Everyone's saying C, but what were we looking at?
This guy knows my pecker brother.
Wait, you know his brother's private bits.
I know much about him, yes.
Well, I mean, is there something that we're supposed to help you with, or do you need help with something?
He stretching out his paws and getting that wide-jawed cat yawn that just like, oh, you see all of these glistening teeth. And as he does, it seems like the yawn like sucks in the air. You almost feel pulled towards him a little bit. And he says,
It is not me.
"Oh no, Tim!
No! No!
Look at me. Look at me. I'm the Holly now.
I'm the Holly now.
I'm the Holly now."
So the overlay's all effed up. We're gonna go ahead before it's getting late, so we don't want the session to go too long. We were coming up on the end here anyway. Atma essentially says,
We have much to talk about.
and that is where we will end our session for tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Technical issues aside, it is just, this game is one of my favorite things in the world. I love when we get to play, and even though we play less frequently than we'd all like, these sessions are always worth it, and we always make them count. So thank you guys for hanging out and watching, and these players are amazing. If you haven't subscribed to all of them, what's wrong with you? Links are down in the description. I'm gonna let everyone do a puzzle outro here. We'll go ahead and start with Holly, played by Mike Lasham.
Played by Mike Lasham's Far Wall.
Yes. Oh, hey, there we go.
Oh, there we are. Tim's got an iPhone. See? This guy knows how to get into a game.
Tim's got an iPhone.
No matter what happens. Dude,
Yep.
This guy's complicated.
That's right. There he is. Hey, Tim, we're going to do outros, man.
You missed it. We all died.
Yeah, everyone died.
Roll initiative, Tim.
Atma
Roll
ate
initiative.
everybody.
I think they're actually.
It's old Tim.
It's Tim from session 1 of campaign.
Everyone's died.
Oh, the nostalgia.
Yeah, just don't worry about it. But everyone's dead. It's not a big deal though.
Oh, okay.
Oh man.
It is Tim from session 1 of campaign 1.
When it comes with auto-tune.
Oh, no.
I miss the auto-tune.
Do you want to do Holly as played by Michael Shum, or do you want to do Holly do you want to do it? Howard?
No, all right. There's
there he is now.
there he is.
Tim's here now.
Maybe.
Nope.
Go ahead and do your outro there, Barker.
Sorry,
Oh. There you are, Tim. Maybe.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear us?
Buddy.
Is this better? Hello?
I think it's a little better.
Can you hear me?
If this
Yeah,
was
a
a
little
horror movie, I'd almost be sure you're the
I'm
next
walking
one
out
to
of the street. I'm walking out of the street in my underwear.
I'm walking
Is-
out in the street in my underwear.
Can you hear me now? I am. I'm in the middle of the street. I'm wearing just underpants and a shirt.
Take off your shirt. See if the stream gets better.
Yeah. Try disrobing more, Tim.
Yeah, take off more clothes. Let's see. We'll see if this works better.
Is
This
that
is
better?
Nice shirt. Oh, he's doing it.
So this is a Provokers first. We have a shirtless Provoker. You're giving Nate the vapors.
Oh gosh.
Oh man. Okay. So Tim, if you can hear me, we're doing outros really quick. We just ended it on a cliffhanger with Atma saying that you had much to discuss. So we're gonna do outros now. So Barker, go ahead and do your outro.
Thank you everybody for watching. Matt, this was I said it in the chat, this was a favorite session of mine, man. And one of the things I gotta say, and I don't care if Tim is here to hear it or not, but Durgan, Quintrek, these are some of my favorite characters ever, and they are in good company with Kristoff. I've always known it, always thought it, we've always talked about it, but this session in particular was like, that was some good and heavy stuff that I really appreciated, and just awesome role play and awesome backstory with Nero. You guys are all awesome. Matt, you have a gift of, it's like an episode of Lost where each episode focuses on one person, but they're still encompassing, you still get scenes with Kate, even though it's a Jack. You're really good at managing that. And every session, I just feel like I get to learn more and more about one of these other characters. And I think this might be my favorite session of the campaign so far, because I got a 1v1 duel, baby.
You did. You 1v1 dueled the Haldrethine elf that fought your dad like 20 years ago and sent him into the Bleak. So that's pretty awesome, I'd say.
Dude, I 1v1'd her IRL.
Dude, that's some Star Wars level shit right there. Like
It's some Star Wars level shit.
Awesome, man. Thank you for the kind words about my dungeon mastering as well. I really appreciate that. You guys make it really easy to do stuff like that. So, Mike, go ahead, man.
Sometimes I get a little sad when no, that's not true. I get sad when every session ends, even though I know it'll just be looking forward to the next session. But unfortunately, for now, the session is over. And now, I've been up since 4 a.m. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed, but I'm not going to go to bed. I'm not going to go to bed.
No sleep for the Provokers tonight.
We're not getting sleep. No, because our brain is going to be going like, what's that? Who is this? What is and so it'll be like 11:30 and I'll be getting back up at 4 a.m. again, but this was great. And thank you to everyone who watched, everyone who chatted, everyone who commented. I think I'm up to 294 different titles for Edric.
So we're
give or
putting,
take a few.
yeah, we're putting Khaleesi to shame. Dax. Okay, there we go. But anyway, you get the idea. So I'm having an amazing time. I am so lucky. One person said that it would be a dream to be in the Provokers, and I felt the exact same way in the first season, and I'm here, and yeah, it's also incredibly surreal being here with all these amazing people. So, yeah. Thank you,
Mike. We feel exactly the same in response to you here, man. We love having you. So, you're just the best Provoker, man. You're just the best one out of all of them. Nate, go ahead, man.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's always a lot more fun. Well, not a lot more fun, but it's always fun to have people in the chat hanging out with us, enjoying this along with us. And I want to just say it's good to be back. It's really, really good to be back after quite a while away. It's a great game.
Absolutely. And I would love to get another session in before my daughter is born. That would just be great. Not that the sessions are going to stop when my daughter's born, but it's just going to be one more thing on top of the just garbage pile that is trying to schedule a regular D&D game. So, all right. And Tim, I think you can hear us. I think you can, it looks like everything's good on your end. So go ahead and do an outro if you want to, man.
Sure. So firstly, I just want to say, I know it's really outside of my control, but I'm sorry about all the internet problems. I'm not sure what's going on. I think they're working on it. There was a power outage this morning, and my wife said things have been sort of wonky at the house before she left for work, and then they've been a little weird. Anyway, point is, sorry about that, because it was, I feel like, an awesome session either way. I don't even know if you guys can hear me right now, but I am standing in my driveway in a pair of boxer shorts and an Atcon t-shirt, and I would play a whole session like this if it meant playing a Provokers game. So I loved it. I love how just it is so cinematic, but it is so close up and personal, and it's so hard to pull that off in a game, making it feel so big and so intimate at the same time. And so, yeah, I'm just really thankful to be in this game. It's just one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. So, thank you all for watching. And Matt, thank you for an amazing game. Barker, Nate, Mike, thank you for an amazing game. And we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely, we will. And thank you, man. I appreciate that. And likewise. So, yeah, thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. And thank you for being patient with the various technical issues. I know OBS was acting up, and then we had some internet stuff, but it's all good. It's no big deal. We dealt with it in the first Provokers campaign, and we can deal with it now. So it's all good. This was a bit of a throwback to that campaign 1, session 1, where we had to kind of cut it a little early and stuff. So, yeah, thank you, guys. Take care. Happy gaming all. And as always, may your pizzas be hot and ready. And I'm realizing again that I don't know how to stop the stream. Oh God, what do I do? How do I stop it?
You just shut down turn your computer off.
Just turn the computer. Hang on. I'm just going to pull the power plug.